this is Dave Wescott, CEO of Evergreen Brands, and this is Vince Ortiz, Vice President of Business Development. And we are here today to discuss some pretty important topics. I think this is probably one of the most important topics that anybody's going to face in the near future, and that is recession.
Yeah. Sign of the times.
Sign of the times. It looks like we're going to be in a recession. It looks like there's no way around it, right? The interest rates are through the roof.
Yeah.
Just this weekend, residential home sales interest rates went above 6% since the first time in 2008.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
No, it is. It is. A little flashback from the late 2000s there.
It is. It's a tough flashback too, right?
Yeah.
That's a scary day.
No doubt. Those were some tough times in business.
Tough times in business. You know, I don't know how true it is or not, but you know, we heard that D.R. Horton, America's largest home builder, you know, wasn't developing any more land. They don't want to have any inventory that they can't move, so they're finishing up projects, but they're going on a land hold. And I don't know if it's true or not, but that's just the rumor that we've heard around the campfire, and that's concerning. So what does recession mean? And how do you plan for recession? You know, as a franchisor that owns, you know, franchise brands, one of them being TransBlue General Contractors, which we absolutely love, you know, we've been seeing the signs of recession for 8 months.
Yeah.
And we had a call with our owners 8 months ago, 6 months ago, somewhere in that time frame, and we said, hey, listen, start preparing now. Start preparing now for the recession. So I can tell you that recession can be tough. And in my own personal entrepreneurial journey, because that's what this is all about, right? The entrepreneurial journey, the $1 million business idea, you know, $1 million business. How do you build a $1 million business in the midst of recession?
Yeah.
Right? And how does that affect your entrepreneurial journey? I can tell you that in 2008, I had 6 months of work on the books for 28 trucks. And I can tell you that we didn't sell a construction job for 9 months.
It went dead.
It literally went dead.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember that.
People absolutely stopped buying. And that was a brutal time. It was so brutal. Things got so tight. Prices, you know, went so down. And you had your own experience in PuroClean, which was probably a little bit more recession-proof.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. I think we stayed busy. And it, you know, you talked about, you know, the planning, the strategy, right? Just allowed us to, and staying focused on the services that got us through, you know. But, you know, you're right. We saw a lot of people around us, other contractors, just have to go out of business. Yeah. You know, other types of businesses. Because the financial services also take away.
Right.
You know, they you might have had a line of credit of 100,000 before you know it, and that's like 10.
Yeah.
And that hurts.
That does hurt if you lose your line of credit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so being through recession, what tips do you have? What things can we share with the audience today to help them, you know, walk through recession? What does that look like?
Yeah, you know, Dave, I'll tell you, you know, we you talked about experience and how you kind of apply that. You actually led the strategy of the Pestle Group. Yeah. You know, going through that exercise.
Right.
And what does that do? I mean, it just helps us think through specifics. You know, the SWOT, right?
Yep.
Of now, but also what you can forecast potentially for that.
And a SWOT is a strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats.
Correct.
Just for those who don't know. And so one of the tips that you can do right now is you can break your business into 4 quadrants. And you can say, what are our strengths, right? And when we look at our strengths, sometimes we might look at a service line. Like, let's just say we're looking at concrete versus decking if we're contractors, right? Well, maybe we're like, hey, we're a decking contractor and we're absolutely killing it on decking, and so much of our business is decking. But you look at your decking and you're like, oh man, our margins on this are super low. You think it's driving your business. You think it's what's best for your business. So you're doing tons of that work. But maybe your margins, maybe your net profit is super, super low. But then maybe you look at concrete and maybe you're not doing as much of that work, but maybe your margins are super, super tight. Mm-hmm. So that SWOT gives you the ability to dive in and say, you know what, we need to put more emphasis on concrete because we're making a better margin. We're more profitable.
That's it.
And what we want to do in any kind of recession, in any kind of downturn, is we want to understand what our strengths are. We also want to understand what our weaknesses are. Are we spending too much money? Are we just spending frivolously? We got to get our expenses in lock, right? What is our payroll at, right? Sometimes that means, we got to look at, some of the weak links that maybe we can carry through when times are tough, but maybe we got to trim some of those back. Right? That's always a tough thing. Nobody ever wants to hear that. But as companies move into recession, that whole, hey, that great resignation, I can work anywhere, like that becomes a different ballgame. Mm-hmm. Right? Because companies get leaner and leaner and leaner. And so as, we're being forced into this recession, I think that, a lot of what happens is companies need to start looking at what those things are. And two of the tips are focus on what is most profitable. Focus on where you make your money. And then the other thing that we like to look at is what's not going to go away.
Right. So you're talking, you could tie that into, threats.
Right.
Totally. Threats, outside threats, right? We just talked about how a line of credit is example of having a $100,000 line of credit. Tomorrow it goes down to 10, and what does that do to your business?
Yeah.
What does that? It changes your plan and changes your strategy. You can't do maybe something or take on a job that you maybe were taking on yesterday.
You don't have that cushion.
Yeah. So those outside threats are really key because there's some things that go beyond your control.
So where's your line of credit? Where's your cash flow?
Yeah.
What happens when things get tight? Right? We want to be looking at those things. We want to be cognizant of those things. We want to make sure that that's in a good place. And then from there, we want to be looking at our opportunities. What can we sell continually that's not going to be affected by the recession? And, one of the things, and this isn't, this podcast, this LinkedIn Live that we do, this isn't about promoting our brand. This is about, giving great tips. But I think that, being in the franchise industry, our goal was to build an evergreen brand.
Yeah.
Right? That's really what our goal was. Our goal was to say, let's build a brand that isn't going to get hammered when we go through recession. And so our goal is to build our business into buckets. Okay? And when we build into buckets, what we do is we don't want any of our work to exceed certain thresholds, right? We don't want any part of our business to have too much power over one another. And so, this is some behind the scenes stuff, and maybe, these are some tips and secrets, maybe some of the secret sauce here. But I think that, to really give you, great advice on how to work through a recession, what we do is we want to see a third of our business in maintenance. Right? We want a third of our business maintenance focused. For us, that's snow and ice removal. Mm-hmm. Right? We want a third of our business to be in that snow removal quadrant. That way we know we've got income coming in. We know we're working in a sector that is completely controlled by the weather. We know that buildings and properties will have to be serviced in snow and ice.
Yeah.
We know that. So that's a core competency. That's one of our pillars. And then from there, we want to focus a third of our business on multifamily construction. And the reason why multifamily construction is important to us is because all of those buildings will continually need repair. Just as an example, we know that if we go to a large 250 unit complex we know that there's been a reserve study done for that. And we know that that reserve study is going to, line out all of the expenses for that property for the next 20 years. For example, they know when the fence needs to be replaced and they're budgeting for it. They're actually filling a reserve fund, and their goal is to become fully funded. And so when the dues are paid every single month, what happens is a portion of that goes into a reserve account to fulfill the needed projects. So when the fencing needs to happen, when the asphalt paving needs to happen, when the seal coat needs to happen, when the decks need to be rebuilt, when the roof needs to be done, when the siding needs to be replaced, all of these major capital projects are actually budgeted in and forecasted, and they have to get them done.
Even through recession.
Even through recession.
Yep.
Right? And even going through the last recession, what we found was that that's really where, we want to hang our hat. Right? We really want to hang our hat there because we know that work has to be done. So that's focused on recession proofing what we're walking into.
Right.
And so our teams right now are focusing on those property managers and engaging those property managers and driving business that way. And then the last bucket is a third of our business, is focused on, government or high-end residential work. And we know that the government is always going to spend money. That's not going to stop.
Yep.
They love to spend money.
Yeah.
That debt just keeps getting higher and higher and higher and higher and higher.
They pay the prices too.
It doesn't even seem real anymore.
No, I know.
This debt, it's like, it's trillions of dollars.
We keep getting the money. Somehow.
Right?
Yeah.
They just keep printing it.
That's it.
It's kind of like playing Monopoly.
Yeah.
I'll take Boardwalk. I'll take Park Place. What are you buying that with?
It just keeps coming in.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Right. But the truth of the matter is, you want to understand your client base, and so I think that's really important. Is you need to know who you're servicing and where you're going after. So the tip is, after you listen to this call, after you're on this call, the thing to really do is to sit down with your team and look at your business. And when you look at that business, really decide for yourself, are we going to make it? Interesting statistic that came out just last week was 49% of small businesses failed in 2021. That is a huge statistic.
It is.
And you see these statistics all over the place, and this is from a reputable source. But maybe it's off a few percentage points, but it's probably pretty close.
Yeah. They all come in about the same.
Yeah. But think about what that does. So, one of the things is, you want to look at your business and you want to make sure that you're in an insulated business. But what you don't want to do in recession is you don't want to shrink back. You don't want to stop going for it. You want to be bold. You want to be tough. You want to get out there and you want to keep going for it. But you really want to look at your brand. You really want to look at your business. Are you going to survive? Because you can start to forecast it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You might think about even talking to our team, because we do that at no cost, right? Our team, amazing people, look at that business, and now might be a great time to invest in a franchise.
Yeah.
It might be that time to say, hey, look, I want a team that supports me. I want a team that has best practices. I want a team that is preparing months and months and months in advance of recessions. In fact, we've been talking about the possibility of recession for the last 24 months. We've actually been preparing for it, thinking about it, talking about it. Vince mentioned PESTLE. That's political, environmental, social, legal, economic, right? Those are the impacts that those particular things have on your business. And so our group has been going through these as a leadership team for many months. Many quarters we've been running through PESTLE scenarios, and we've been doing this because we know that things change. And so we need to be prepared for those. In fact, when we do those bring significant change, to our business and to what we are building. And so you want to align yourself with success. And I think that's what's important. And that's what we are focused on, incredible customer experience. We're focused on this. But in recession, we can't shrink back. We got to advertise more. We got to push out more. We got to drive sales more.
Yeah, and it's something the marketing becomes a bigger part of.
It does.
Really dialed in and focused. And I think you touched on something earlier, Dave. A key, I think a good tip on this as well is when you get through the opportunities process, make sure you're leveraging your strengths with those opportunities. Sync up those possibilities and those opportunities. Keep improving obviously in your weaknesses, but really take those opportunities and leverage them with your strengths.
What are some examples of some of the weaknesses we should be looking out for?
Well, I mean, I think you hit it. I think one of the things is getting together with your team and really start there. To really kind of dig into not only you as a leader, you as an owner, and from your standpoint, but also getting perspective on it from your team.
Right.
And a lot of great ideas come from that, right? And a lot of great strategy, redirection. And so a weakness, would be maybe for example something in operations that is just not consistent in you're building your business. Depending on what stage you're at, it could be something that is not working very well. And maybe that's not something that you really focus on through this recession. It's something maybe that if it's tied into a service that is just a weak link, does it make sense to, unless there's a real opportunity there in the recession to get after it, right? To build on it. In other words, don't spend your time spinning your wheels and a lot of effort and a lot of money on something that's not going to work.
Right. So one of the things that could be really tied into operations is equipment.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we saw through the last recession was just tons of equipment just go up for sale.
Yeah.
How much equipment went to the auction blocks? How much equipment had to be liquidated? Because equipment has a monthly expense. Right? Equipment has a fee behind it.
Yeah.
And so I think that, one of the things that you're looking at is what are you investing in? Do you need to buy it used? Should you be buying it new? Do you get a better bang for your buck on the warranty? Right? These are things that can really impact your business. As we move into recession, we want to become as debt-free as possible.
Great point.
Right? That debt is what keeps us up at night. That debt is what can really put a stake in the heart of any business.
Yeah.
And what happens is you can be in your business and you can say, oh, it's not affecting me. It's not affecting me. It's not affecting me. And then all of a sudden, boom, it's affecting you.
Yeah.
Right? So you got to be reading the signs. You got to be being nimble. And I think one of the things is that really being with your team on a weekly basis, talking about strategy, talking about planning. The other thing is starting to look at your associations that you're a part of. What are they saying about recession? What are people seeing in other markets? One of the things that you can look at is permits. You can see how many permits, what the backlog on permits is, what the backlog on construction projects is. You can go right online and look at these things. And you know what? That's a really telling sign, because when you start to see the permit department freeing up, you know that people are stopping building. When you can go right in and pull a permit, you know that there's some recession issues.
Yeah.
So we want to be looking at those things in our business. We want to be planning for those things in our business.
Great point, Dave. Time's now. You can't wait until you're in it.
No, you can't wait till you're in it.
Yep.
You cannot wait till you are in recession. And that means for your particular area, your particular place. And really focus on what you're good at. Really just get in there and hone on what's going to make money. And it might not even be something that you like, to be perfectly honest. You might have to eat the bullet and say, you know what, we're going to do more maintenance. You've got to be quick to shift. You've got to be quick to make adjustments as you work through what recession looks like, what recession feels like, and how it's going to affect the brand. And you need to be open and honest with your team, right? Talk to your team about what's happening.
Right.
What do you think one of the biggest disappointments in recession is for a small business?
Not really. I would say just from what I saw being in it, and in my own case, is spending way too much time on the example of clients. That for example, we've been touching on this throughout this whole conversation, is that you wanna define who those clients are that have those, whether they're budgets or those funds or folks that let's face it, a lot of folks aren't really affected by a recession, based on their income.
Yeah.
And really focused on that, because you can waste a lot of time and money on business that is not good for your business during a recession. That's
a great point.
It's a different approach.
So you really want to hone in on that ideal customer. I think you said something that was awesome. There's a lot of people that are not affected by a recession.
Right.
So who is affected by a recession? Small business.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's who's affected by recession. Right? Those are the guys right there.
Mm-hmm.
But your big tech, your Amazon, your Microsoft, your Google, your Facebook, whatever, now it's Meta, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
These brands are less affected. Right? Amazon is going to continue selling products. Although I don't think Amazon is the cheapest anymore for books.
No. I've noticed that.
Every time I look for a book on Amazon, it's like through the roof. It's like, I'm not buying at Amazon for books anymore. I'm just going to go straight to Barnes & Noble or something.
Yeah.
Half-price books, I don't know.
They did the opportunity process.
They've raised their rates now. They've raised their rates now. But those businesses, you think about what they're doing and what they're making, and you think about where your business is located. So if you're in a market that's heavily, affected by big tech, major metropolitan, coastal cities, then you want to focus on that right customer. But you want to make sure that as you're going through that, and this is no offense, but you want to stay away from the middle class, right? You want to stay away from the lower middle class, because that's where it's going to get hurt the worst, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of those folks are employed by those small businesses. And when those small businesses take a hit, those are the people who get affected. At least on my entrepreneurial journey, that's what I've seen.
That's true, yeah.
But if I focus on the guy at Amazon who's making $350K a year or $500,000 a year, like at the end of the day, he's still putting that driveway in.
Yeah.
Right? He's still pulling the trigger on the swimming pool.
Oh yeah, doesn't affect him.
A story that I like to tell is that, during the recession, in Seattle, because that's where we hang out, right? We hang out in the Seattle area. Mm-hmm. Go Hawks. Or go Chargers. Go Chargers for Vince. Even though they failed to Kansas City last week, that was a tough one.
That was brutal, man. They'll change.
That'll change. That'll turn back around. Maybe Mahomes will take an injury. I don't know. I'm just putting that out there in the universe right now. The deal is that if you focus on who you are and you focus on your customer, it doesn't matter if it's the customers that we choose. What matters is that you focus on the customer who is going to spend money. And the story that I like to tell is in Seattle, we had a Louis Vuitton store, and that Louis Vuitton store was on 5th Avenue, downtown Seattle. Okay? Mm-hmm. And during the recession, they opened up a second Louis Vuitton store in Bellevue. Right? Because there only used to be one in Seattle, but then they put in a second one in Bellevue. They didn't close the one in Seattle. They actually moved it into the Nordstroms, right? So now it's a part of the Nordstroms, building as you go in downtown Seattle. But what I'm saying is the point of this is that high-end luxury didn't go backwards.
Right.
Right? I didn't see the Mercedes dealership close. I saw they built a second one in Linwood, which is, 15 miles outside of Seattle. Right? Mercedes, during the Depression, they didn't say, we're done. We're folding up shop. No, mm-hmm. They built another unit, and they're selling more.
Yeah.
Right? Because they know their customer. And when you feed your customer's appetite, your customer continues to come back. So what changes do you need to make to your website? What changes do you need to make to your marketing? What changes do you need to make in your business to ensure that you're taking it to the next level? What recession proofings are you putting in place right now? What are you doing to ensure that your family is taken care of, that your business survives the next 24 to 36 to 48 months?
Right. It's a journey. It's a long journey. It can be.
There can be dark days in there.
Yeah.
But you know what? I think that you see a major change in wealth during these recessions. And I think you have this opportunity to push and forge ahead and really, really go for it. Or you could shrink back. You know, don't be a Blockbuster. I love this saying. Blockbuster didn't take care of their customers, right? Mm-hmm. And the guy who created Netflix, we all know Netflix, right?
Oh, yeah.
Do you know Netflix?
Yeah, I've seen it once.
You've seen it once or twice?
The red brand kind of thing? Yeah.
Yeah, the red thing, right? It's on the TV that's got tons of shows, right? Tons of big actors on these shows.
Yeah.
By the way, the movie Hustle with Adam Sandler, awesome.
Is that the jewelry one?
That was Gems or something, Gems or Golden Gems or Wishful Gems. I don't know. Gems, I don't know.
Yeah.
But this one's about basketball. Ralph, do you know what that was called? Gems?
Uncut Gems.
Uncut Gems. There you got a little soundbite from Ralph. He's the video man, banging it out for us, keeping it real. Uncut Gems. But that movie Hustle was off the hook. It was off the charts. It was off the chain, right? I got to keep the lingo fresh up in here. But
check it out.
Yeah, it was cool, man. It was cool. It was about sports.
Yeah.
You would dig it.
Yeah.
About this awesome. It's about a white Michael Jordan, which is kind of cool. You know, guy's phenomenal. Can I say that, white Michael Jordan?
Yeah,
I think so. I think that's cool. Because I love Michael Jordan. He's my favorite basketball player of all time. But regardless of that, you know, the fact was that, and we kind of digressed there a little bit, but that's okay because it's towards the end of the call. We can do that. But here's what happens. You know, you think about Blockbuster, right? You think about that $45, that $40 late fee. Well, the guy who created Netflix, and if you remember, Netflix was mailing out the DVDs to your mailbox.
That's right.
Right? You remember that? You'd go on Netflix, you'd pick what you wanted, and then like 24 hours, 48 hours later, whatever, you had 3 or 4 flicks in your mailbox. Right. You watch them, you return them. And, you know, it was like this great deal, $1, $2. I can't remember what it cost. But the guy who created Netflix, right, he was sick of the Blockbuster late fees. What was Blockbuster not doing? They weren't listening to their customers. They weren't focused on where their customers were going, and they weren't focused on the change in the industry.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest thing that we can do is really focus on how does our business change. We all remember the company Kodak, right? Film, right? None of this stuff that we're shooting today is on film, by the way. It's all digital. How did they not see that coming?
Yeah. And they were leading the charge for...
They were leading the charge. They were a Fortune 500 company. They were top rated, top stock. I mean, but what was happening is they weren't looking into the future. They weren't focusing on that pestle. They weren't focusing on that SWOT analysis. They weren't focusing on what happens with their customer, how their customer changes. They weren't evolving. Business does not stay the same. I think one of the phrases, one of the things that you say that I think is truer than any statement ever put out there is business is going to change every 6 months. What our business looks like today is not what it's going to look like in 6 months.
Absolutely.
You have been preaching that since I've known you.
No doubt. Even more so when you're coming up on a recession.
But it is so true.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so if we can leave you with anything today, it's get in and start planning for recession right now. If you want someone to talk about it, reach out to us.
Absolutely.
Don't have to buy nothing from us. We're not even selling you anything. Mm-hmm. Just hang out and chat. I think peers working together is an amazing opportunity. I'm Dave Wescott. Follow me on LinkedIn, David Wescott. Look me up. Follow Vince Ortiz on LinkedIn. Look him up. Mm-hmm. Get in there. Get that follow on. We got great content. If you enjoyed this content, share it with somebody else. And if we can help you on your entrepreneurial journey, give us a shout. And if we can help you create that $1 million business idea, you know where to find it.
Right.
Because you know what, you don't get that $1 million business unless you prepare right now for recessions.
That's it. And
rock
reach
and roll.
out.
And reach out.
Yeah, reach out. Tell people.
We'll be back next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Hit us up. Great call.
Absolutely.